Some Pokemon have more than one final evolution. If you give Gloom a Leaf Stone, it'll evolve into Vileplume, but a Sunstone will turn it into Blossom instead. So what's up, fellas? I'm Matt, and there's a bunch of other Pokemon that could reasonably get branched evolutions. So that's what Elias and I are gonna check out today. Alright, let's get started.
What's up, I'm Elias, and Horsey and Seadra are pure water-type Pokemon from Gen 1. Their evolution, Kingdra, was introduced in Gen 2, and it's a water dragon type. But this line could have gone a much different direction. Several of Seadra's Pokedex entries talk about its poisonous properties, so we think it would be cool for Seadra to get a poison-type branched evolution. We'll call it Evil Seadra. Great name, right?
Let's also come up with new evolution methods for each Pokemon. Seadra evolves into Kingdra if you trade it while it's holding a dragon scale. I'm gonna be honest though, I don't love the idea of adding more trade evolutions, and Game Freak seems to agree. They haven't put any new ones in the game since Gen 7, so let's do something else involving an item instead. Let's make Seadra evolve into, Evil Seadra, if you level it up while it holds a Toxic Orb. Just for the record, yes, I'm the one who writes the scripts, but, Elias was the one who came up with Evil Seadra.
What? Slander? On one hand, we think it's kind of a shame that Seadra isn't a water poison type to begin with. On the other hand though, the Kanto Dex is already filled to the brim with these guys. There are 33 poison type Pokemon in the original 151. No other type has ever had that many Pokemon introduced in a single generation, so it makes sense that Game Freak might not have wanted to make it 34, especially since Tentacruel also exists. Then again, there are 3 different grass poison type lines, but whatever.
The Horsey line is already one of the weirder ones out there. All 3 members can have the ability Sniper and Damp, but their other ability slot differs. If you have a Swift Swim Horsey, it'll evolve into a Poison Point Seadra, but then when it evolves into Kingdra, it'll get Swift Swim back. So screw it, let's bring a branched evolution into the mix, and add just a little more chaos. Evil Seadra would keep Poison Point as an ability option. Everybody throw tomatoes at Elias for coming up with such an awful name.
Bisharp is one of the strongest Pokemon that isn't fully evolved. Its base stat total of 490 is already decent, and it's a notable threat in competitive play. For some reason though, Game Freak decided that it needed an evolution, so say hello to King Gambit. It's even stronger than Bisharp thanks in part to a new signature ability in the form of Supreme Overlord, and its new signature move, Kowtow Cleave. Can you kowtow properly?
No, thank you for asking.
So let's add another branch to the Bisharp line, why not? The universe tends towards chaos, so we may as well join in.
This line draws inspiration from the game of chess. Poniard, Bisharp, and King Gambit all have chess pieces in their names, and the final evolution's name comes from the King's Gambit, a chess opening that dates back to the 15th century. But the strongest piece in the game is the Queen, so let's call our new Bisharp evolution Cleavin' Queen.
How about Geo Queen?
Leave a comment, which name do you prefer, Cleavin' Queen or Gia Queen?
Bisharp and King Gambit are slow and bulky, but we imagine that Gia Queen would be faster and it would trade in a good chunk of that bulk to compensate. That's because the Queen is the strongest and most mobile piece in chess. It can move horizontally, vertically, or diagonally, and you can move it at any distance in those directions as well. I should say it as Gia Queen the entire time, and you should say it as Cleavin' Queen.
Let's give Cleavin' Queen a different ability too. Sharpness was introduced in Gen 9, and it makes slicing moves 50% stronger. King Gambit didn't get that ability, even though its design includes a ton of sharp blades. In fact, Kowtow Cleave is listed as a slicing move in the game's code. But since King Gambit got a signature ability in the form of Supreme Overlord, it makes sense the Game Freak didn't give it another brand new one. Let's give Sharpness to Cleavin' Queen instead, and we'll also include Kowtow Cleave in its move pool. Hey, we never said these evolutions would be balanced.
If you want to evolve Bisharp into King Gambit, you have to level it up after knocking out 3 other Bisharp. Specifically, they have to be wild Bisharp that are holding a leader's crest, which they only have if they're leading a group of Poniard. Let's make the evolution into Gia Queen more straightforward. You can get this alternate final form by simply reaching level 60.
The easier evolution method is a reference to chess too. Each player only gets 1 king, and the whole goal of the game is to checkmate said king. If you reach a position where your opponent's king can't escape, the game is over and you win. Meanwhile, it is possible to have multiple queens. If your pawn makes it to the end of the board, it gets promoted to another piece of your choice. You can turn it into a bishop, knight, or rook, but the queen is the most common choice. Since queens are more plentiful than kings in chess, it should be easier to get a Cleavin' Queen compared to a King Gambit. Hey Elias, you know how Ash Ketchum has Pikachu riding on his shoulder?
Yeah.
What would your shoulder Pokemon be?
Duraludon. He's only 70 pounds, so...
I would've gone with Snorlax.
Next up, we thought it'd be fun to have a good ending, bad ending branch family, and Primeape would be a good candidate for that. This guy is absolutely furious at all times, to the point where it can die of anger. But what if it mellowed out over time? maybe it becomes calmer and turns into a fighting psychic type instead of evolving into a fighting ghost type Annihilape, after dying from being too angry. We thought about calling the new evolution Metatape, but that's already pretty close to Metatite, so no thanks. Let's go with, whatever, I don't care. Let's just go with Metatape.
Everybody leave a comment with your shoulder Pokemon. For me it's gotta be Snorlax, Groudon, Aggron.
I think I'll go with Mimikyu.
Mimikyu?
Mimikyu's
really?
kinda cool. Yeah, and then when I look at the Mimikyu, I die.
Primeape evolves into Annihilate if you use Rage Fist 20 times, then level up. So let's tie the Metatape evolution to a move as well. Primeape can actually learn the move Meditate, but only as an egg move. It's also not in the game anymore, but that's no problem. In modern Pokemon, some moves get deleted then added back later, so the same thing could happen here. So if you use Meditate 20 times, Primeape would evolve into Metatape. For the sake of convenience, we'd also add Meditate to Primeape's level up learn set.
We kind of wanted to make Metatape a special attacker instead of a physical one, but considering the choices we've already made, that doesn't really make much sense. Meditate raises the user's physical attack by 1 stage, so it wouldn't make sense for Primeape to focus so hard on the physical end, only for its special attack to go through the roof instead. So we're gonna make Metatape a physical attacker, but with a slightly different stat spread compared to Annihilate. I'm gonna sneeze.
Okay. Jail. Since Annihilate has a signature move, I think Metatape should get one as well. Tranquil Fist would be an 80 base power psychic type move, but it would have 2 possible effects on top of that. If Metatape got hit by an attack on the previous turn, Tranquil Fist would become 50% stronger, making its effective power 120. But if it didn't get hit, the move would stay 80 power and heal Metatape instead. That represents Metatape keeping its composure during the battle, and turning the damage it took into some kind of positive.
We could have added Tranquil Fist to Primeape's level up set, since that's how Rage Fist was implemented, but we think that making Meditate the required move and locking the signature attack behind the evolution makes a little more sense. In Primeape's current state, it's angry beyond comprehension, so it'll naturally be more inclined to use moves like Rage Fist. Changing your disposition is easier said than done, so it makes sense if Primeape had a harder time learning to collect itself, so it would have to spend more time using Meditate before it can effectively use Tranquil Fist.
Hey, I've got it. My optimal shoulder Pokemon is Beware.
Aren't Beware like incredibly dangerous?
You think I care?
I thought it was in the Pokédex entry that like when they smile at you and they extend their arms in like a hug.
Yeah, if it hugs you, you die. Who cares? You have a death machine of a Mimikyu on your shoulder, so... Shelmet and Karrablast have one of the most unique evolution methods. They evolve into Excelgor and Escavalier respectively, but only when they're traded for each other. But let's give them both new electric-type evolutions. We should probably explain ourselves. According to the Pokedex, they evolve whenever they're near each other due to electrical stimulation. So let's give Shelmet and Karrablast new bug electric-type evolutions, which you can get by using a Thunderstone. We'll call them Shelmetric and Carabolt.
The Thunderstone has always worked on at least one non-electric type Pokemon. You can use it to evolve the normal type Eevee into Jolteon, and starting in Legends Arceus, it also evolves Nosepass into Probopass. But we're going to retain the theme of Shelmet and Karrablast depending on each other to evolve. The Thunderstone evolution would only work if the other Pokemon is in your party. If you use the Thunderstone on one of the bugs, both of them would evolve at the same time. That's a pretty convoluted evolution method, but hey, we've seen worse. Hey, Game Freak, what the hell is this nonsense?
I think that I should be allowed to carry a Beware on my back. You know what? Screw it. Avalugg, it weighs 1,100 pounds. Anyway, Excelgor and Escavalier can't learn any electric-type moves, so let's give the new evolutions the standard choices. Thunderbolt, Thunder, Wild Charge, Zekrom, Kick. You know, I'm not gonna lie. I thought Shelmet and Karrablast were version exclusives, but nope. In every game where you can find one of them, you can also find the other. In fact, these Pokemon are found in all the same locations in the Unova sequels. The only difference is Shelmet is more common in Black 2, and Karrablast is more common in White 2. But it's entirely possible to catch both Pokemon in quick succession, and enable their evolution method.
Here's an idea that we think would be fun. What if one Pokemon had 2 evolutions? One that's a water type, and another that's an ice type. A while back, a ton of Game Freak's information was revealed in the Terra League, and one thing we saw was a pretty interesting status move. Melt is a fire-type move that was cut from Black and White, but it would have turned Steel and Ice-type Pokemon into normal and water-type respectively.
That's, pretty situational to say the least. If you're using a fire-type Pokemon, you wouldn't want your opponent to lose their Ice or Steel type, since fire is super effective against both of those. You'd be better off just attacking them. According to the leak, this move has no other effects, so it would always fail against most Pokemon. If your opponent has has no steel or ice type Pokemon, you'd have a completely dead moveslot.
Using it on your partner in a double battle wouldn't be a great idea either, because they'd lose their original stat, and many ice types don't learn strong water moves. Anyway, between this and Freeze Dry, Game Freak has explored unusual interactions between water and ice, so let's put our own spin on that idea today. Crabominable is an ice type, but it also has quite a bit to do with hot water. Its design is partially inspired by the Yeti crab, a species that lives in hydrothermal vents underwater. These vents produce water that can get as hot as 800 degrees Fahrenheit or 427 degrees Celsius. Crabominable is also the only Where's my Kelvin calculation?
Okay, you want Kelvins? That's about 700 Kelvins.
Crabominable is also the only ice-type Pokemon that could ever learn Scald. Yeah, go figure. None of the dual water ice types could learn it. Well, anyway, what if Crabrawler could also evolve into a fighting water type? We'll call this guy Crabboxer. Wait, hold on, I thought Crabrawler was a water fighting type.
No, it's pure fighting.
That's dumb.
You're dumb. Crabominable has 2 different evolution methods, depending on which game you're playing. In the Alola games from Gen 7, Crabrawler evolves if you level it up on Mount Lanakila, and in Scarlet and Violet, it evolves with an Ice Stone. So the most logical evolution method for Crabboxer would be a Water Stone. The Crabrawler line can't learn Scald anymore, because the move's distribution was absolutely annihilated in Gen 9. But screw it, let's give Scald back to the crabs.
They'll cook themselves.
True.
We figured that a mixed attacking stat spread would make the most sense for a Pokemon like this. Boxing is obviously a very physical activity, but unless you're Mike Tyson in the Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson
Oh
fight.
my god, let's not, oh no.
Boxing is obviously a very physical activity, but we also want to highlight the fact that it can use Scald, which is a special move. So Crabboxer wouldn't hit quite as hard as Crabominable, but it would be slightly more versatile in exchange.
We also thought about making an Ice-type Pokemon evolve into a Water type, but we weren't exactly sure how to make that work, or which Pokemon could do such a thing. Vanillish wouldn't make much sense, because you know what happens when ice cream melts? You get a milkshake puddle. If Bergmite melts, sea levels rise all over the globe. Oh well, we tried. Next!
Here's another potential good ending evolution. Paris' back has parasitic mushrooms growing out of it, which steal most of the nutrients from the host. By the time it evolves into Parasect, the actual bug is practically dead, but the mushroom continues to control the body, and it still drains nutrients from the plants around it. Paris' mushrooms are also used in life-extending medicine, so what if it loses said mushrooms?
Long story short, I think Paris would be a lot healthier without them. Apparently humans would be healthier with them, so... Anyway, our new evolution, Paraslash, would be a pure bug type, because the fungus that makes it grass type would be gone. Bug Nothing is a better defensive typing than Bug Grass, because Paris would lose its double weaknesses to fire and flying. We'd also give it the ability Sharpness, which would boost moves like X-Scissor and Slash.
Parasect is one of the weakest fully evolved Pokemon out there, especially if you ignore the ones with some sort of gimmick. Since Paraslash would logically be stronger and healthier than Parasect, we think a much improved base stat total is in order. We'll give it a boost to its HP, attack, and speed stats. As for an evolution method, we're just going to make stuff up. The herbal medicine items have antifungal properties now, we decided. Give your Paras 10 of these and call me in the morning. I will not answer. Muscle is the number 1 predictor of longevity, the number 1 predictor of whether or not you'll beat cancer, the number 1 predictor of whether you'll get Alzheimer's, the number 1 predictor of whether you'll get dementia. It's actually like a crazy predictor. Muscle
Is this a Pokemon video, or is this a video about, go to the gym? You know, I learned yesterday, or 2 days ago, that, Kendrick Lamar's last name isn't Lamar.
Yeah, it's
Duckworth.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he just goes by his, first and middle name.
If my last name were Duckworth, I'd do the same thing, probably.
Slander on the internet. Everybody unsubscribe from our channel. I will not stand for this defamation of my name.
So your solution is just to nuke the channel instead of taking me to court?
Yeah. Look, muscle mass is the best predictor of longevity.
So, you know Nigel Richards?
No.
He is, the best Scrabble player of all time. He's won the World Championship how many times? 5 times. He's won the French Championship once, and, recently, he, won the Spanish World Championship. He does not speak Spanish or French.
Wow.
He just knows the words.
That's actually really, really impressive.
I don't think it's far-fetched to say that he literally knows a million words.
He probably does.
Welp, that's all we got for today. Leave a comment about our Maldo. If you've been enjoying our videos, subscribe to MEPlaysGames, and consider becoming a channel member. It costs just 99 cents a month, and you'll get to watch our long-form videos early, as well as deleted scenes. And as always, shoutouts to our existing members. We'll see you all next time. Good night, fellas. Sleep well.